Okay, so welcome to the Iolande Argent show. Well, welcome everyone, and while I'm waiting on our guest, we're experiencing technical difficulties. I'm going to pop my screen open for just a moment so I can talk a little bit about my guest today on the show. Okay, and it's telling me that the screen, hang on 1 second, there we go. There we go. Guess that needs to be up as well. Odd. Never had to do that.
All I'm seeing is, so I've got me and you in little boxes off to the side, but what I've got on the main screen is like your control panel thing rather than anything else. So I don't know what it's doing.
It's amazing. I can use this all the time. And let me see if I can get us in here now. There's me. Where are you?
Because I can see that you've got the other, because just a fraction around the edges of it, I can see the edges of my Amazon page. But what the main thing in the front is your control paneling thing.
Yeah, it shouldn't be doing that. I don't know why it's doing that. Let's try this a different way.
It's interesting. It must be the day for it. One of my friends from Ireland actually was trying to run a webinar through a different system last night, and it was doing weird stuff and not working properly for him. It's just this 24 hours.
I guess so. Oh, that's the first time it's ever done that. Let me try something a little different here. We're going to stop that. Now, do you see both of us at this point?
Yes, now I'm seeing you in the center screen and me up the top, which is what I would normally expect.
Yeah, very odd. Oh, well, okay. Well, I was going to show everybody your other work. We'll have to edit that in later.
Yes. The wonders of editing. So I did try to set my camera so it zoomed in a bit more, because
great.
It's like a background. The blue thing is a background I've got that goes on the back of a chair.
Mm-hmm.
Because my messy office is what's behind me.
Yeah,
but obviously it's not staying zoomed.
You don't see my messiness over here either, so.
Yeah.
It's great how we hide that. Yeah.
Mm.
So how long have you, when did you first start writing?
It's interesting, actually. I'm one of these people who I wrote when I was a kid. My first published article was actually when I was 14 or 15 in a national magazine, with one of my own photos. And then I didn't do much. And somewhere along, I used to write a lot of poetry and I used to write stories and things. And somewhere in that late teens, early 20s bit, somehow part of the brain got convinced that I couldn't do that, shouldn't do that, and I just sort of stopped. And I've written business stuff because I worked for 30 years in corporate. So you're perpetually writing, and most business writing is actually bureaucratic fiction. It's creative writing in a big way.
It's true.
And then about 6 or 7 years ago, nearly 10 years ago, no, over 11 years ago, my mother died, and I started looking at how people dealt with grief and how people dealt with all the things that are involved, because my father was already heading into dementia, and I'm an only child, so I ended up dealing with everything. And I wrote some things as a result of that. And it just sort of all started again. And I'd been dealing with publishing things. We published a book back in 1990, a hardback book. And then we published science fiction and fantasy artwork, prints and things through the late 90s and early 2000s. And then when the cheap Chinese rip-off of everything market really took off, we stopped that piece of business because we couldn't compete anymore. And things were just sitting there, and it just reached a point about 6 years or so ago where the digital book concept was taking off. And I just looked at things and went, I should probably do this again, and started actively into it. And it just went from there. And in the last 3 years, between books of my own I've published under my own name and under pen names, and books that I've published for others as part of my business, if you average it out, I've released a book a month for the last 3 years, and something like 22 of those have gone to bestseller in their category on Amazon. So,
wow, that's really good. See, you missed your calling, but you had to do the corporate thing to come back to what.
Yeah, it makes you value when you do change, because I just reached a point where I couldn't do that anymore, where it was physically and emotionally not good for me. And I'm not a morning person. I freely admit I do not do mornings well. And the getting up and getting in the car and having to drive somewhere to be somewhere on the other side of town, of course, perversity always is, for a set time in the morning was just harder and harder to do. And I went, no, I can't do this anymore. I have to do something else.
Right. Well, that's good though. I'm glad you came back. You found your return to writing. Writing's always good, a good outlet.
And writing and editing and publishing is much more fun than corporate. Much more fun. Even though sometimes I think I do more hours than I used to do, it's much more fun to do.
Okay. So let's say we're talking to a new writer and they're thinking about self-publishing. What kind of advice could you give them?
Depending on where people are up to, I actually, some years ago when I started into helping others publish and publishing for others, my thought when I started into it was that I would be dealing with people who'd already written their book and wanted simply to get it out there. But the further I went with talking to people, the more I found that the questions I got asked was, how do I start? How do I get it written? So that's where I tend to start in talking to people now, because I believe that every person and every business has a story that is worthy of being told. Right? No question about that. And that people should put their stories in books, because otherwise we lose knowledge. It used to be that people wrote letters, we had printed photos, we had documentation of things, and you had physical history. Now everything's on Facebook, everything's digital. Unless we do something to consolidate it, give it a structure, and give it a shape that people see as having value, things just get lost. Next reign of technology comes along, or you drop your phone into the water and it dies, and there went half your pictures and your contacts and everything on it. So telling your story and making it a book that people see as having value as an object of itself, it's become actually really important to preserving our history and our knowledge. Mm-hmm. So my feeling is that step one is just write. Even if you don't think that you can, even if you have no confidence in your ability to write, even if you're totally unsure about where to start, just brain dump the concepts out of your head. That's what editors are for. Right? If it's in a document, someone can edit it for you, or you can go back and re-edit it and then get someone to help you tidy it up. But if it's just in your head, no one else can edit it.
Sure.
So step one is just write. And then if you want to write better, it's about learning the little things. Because most things that make a difference aren't huge, grand, complex things. They're tiny things about how you approach it. And again, people traditionally, people went to uni and they did degrees and they got massive qualifications in creative writing and English literature, but what they produced as a result was very formal and academic. If you like literary novels and literary type, deep and complex type writing, that's great if that's what you want to do. But 90% of people, when they read things, are either reading it because they want to learn something, in which case they want clean, simple, to the point instructions, or they're reading because they want to be entertained, because that's their escape from the stuff in their daily life. is draining. So writing something deep and literary and complicated isn't necessarily at all what the market wants. I mean, in real terms, I'd have to say, if you want to become a famous writer, don't write anything complicated. Write something simple, emotional, formulaic, that hooks into the stuff that everybody loves, because you'll sell many more books.
That's true. With today's, like you said, with today's ability to put all your information out there digitally, electronics, and everybody can get to it, it's lost a bit of its community. There's no social. And when people read something simple that it evokes an emotion in them, they become very readily attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people are starving for that, since everything went social, and now, all your business is out there, like you said. Everybody puts things on their cell phone. I still get a kick out of that. And I'm thinking, why do I walk around with pictures on my cell phone? It's a phone. I need it to work when I have to call to get gas because I ran out. I don't need it to be showing you my photos. You want to see my photos, you come to my house and look in the photo album. I'm old-fashioned.
And I mean, in that sense, it's interesting that everyone, in the same way with what people were saying, 30 years ago, people were saying, oh, we'll end up with a paperless society, Nah, we just made it possible to make more of the stuff to deal with. And the same way a few years ago, people were saying, digital books, electronic e-books, whatever you want to call them, are going to take over. The paperback will die. No, there's a huge volume of e-books sold, but there's also still a huge volume of paper books sold because people like to hold it in their hand. A lot of people prefer that way. And to some extent, it depends what you're writing about. So if you're writing non-fiction, if you're writing books that are teaching people how to do things, whether that's a recipe book or a book about how to build a chicken coop, or things like my book about how to write better, those things people quite often like as paper, because then they can have the book beside them as they're doing whatever it is you're teaching them to do. So it's a very practical thing. Fiction, people are more likely to read as an ebook, simply because, you can have 500 books on your phone. You can take it anywhere. You can read for 5 minutes on the train, on the bus, while you're waiting for a meeting. And it's right there with you on your iPad or your tablet or your phone. And the other thing with fiction is that it used to be that if you took your book to work to read at lunchtime, you get out the paperback book and everyone goes, what are you reading? Let me have a look, and picks your book up, turns it round, which meant if you wanted to read anything slightly out there, whether that was, you're an obsessive collector of a certain kind of comic or children's toy or something, and you wanted to read all the fan books, which maybe you didn't want your work colleagues to know about, or if you like reading erotica or things that are a bit edgy as far as the average person, you didn't read that. You didn't take that book to work because people would always see it. Now you can have it off the screen in one button push. Nobody knows what you're reading on your phone or your tablet. So fiction is a very strong ebook space, more so than non-fiction.
Right. But it's true. I do know more people that actually like touching. They enjoy the texture of books. So that they don't read. I mean, if you're on a plane or something, you just pick up your Kindle or whatever and read it there. But just to sit down and settle back in your bed, you've got the book. They just like the feel of it.
Yeah, and I have thousands of books, and the only thing that actually eventually tipped me into reading a lot in digital format was travel, because paper books weigh. Luggage allowances are terrible.
Yes, that's true. So then that would bring us to your next topic, the travel writing. So what was the first book you wrote when you started travel as a travel writer?
Most of the travel writing I've done has more been in the writing articles for magazines and websites. So I've got a few books in the planning at the moment, which are going to be more the pictorial sort of travel books. because I'm a photographer as well, everywhere I go, I take thousands of photos. So the sort of things that I'm looking to do with the travel books are really the kind of thing that is glossy pictures to make you want to be there with a small amount of information about each one, rather than travelogue style descriptions. Because there's thousands of travel books out there. It's that space of finding things that people are interested in. And these days people are so visual. I know they watch video, so that when it comes to books, even with any kind of book now, you need kind of more white space and more pictures in a book for people to read it. If you give them something that's big, solid blocks of text, unless it's just a fiction story where they expect that,
Mm-hmm.
they don't read it because it looks too much like a textbook. So
Right.
I've got a series of travel books which are just a range of things, like a book on an individual city or an area, or a book that's an overview of a country where as I've been travelling, I've been slowly accumulating what photos I want to put in there. I've also got some projects going where everywhere in the world you go, there are street cats, strays, but they're not necessarily badly cared for. A lot of countries, everybody feeds them and they're incredibly healthy and well loved. So I have pictures of cats from all over the world. So that's a book. That's
true.
something adding up, because people love cats. You've only got to look at Facebook and all of that. It's like cute cat pictures win every time. So.
Right. Little cats, little kittens. Yeah. Cats are popular. That actually would be an interesting book, because there are countries that do revere animals and they have a whole book of cats. I went here and went there, and here's a cat that I took a picture of. That is actually a really good book. That would be cute.
Yeah. And it's quite interesting because the attitudes are so different, in that when we think, in most Western countries, when we think about stray cats and dogs, we think of the mangy, scruffy, starving thing digging through the dump bin sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go to a lot of places, like Turkey, for instance, there's a lot of stray cats and dogs, more dogs than cats, but both. But everybody looks after them. Everybody comes and feeds them. The same is true in Japan. I've got these pictures from a big park in the middle of Tokyo, where this little lady comes every day, and she's got a bag and she's got a whole set of newspaper, and she appears and she walks up to this park bench and gets out and puts that newspaper in 3 or 4 bits along the ground, and like 25 cats appear out of the park and she feeds them.
Aww.
And they're all healthy and plump and glossy, and everybody just stops and pats them and talks to them. It's amazing.
Right. Well, there's a story there in Japan about a cat that was lucky, and it's an Asian culture story. So it's supposed to be lucky to feed the cats, and then the cats will bring you good wealth and harmony and health. So, hey, feed the cats.
Exactly. It's really interesting watching how it happens, because it's such a different attitude in different parts of the world.
Right. That's true, though. That'll, like I said, that would make a great book. Around here, it would be food. How many little tiny, teeny weeny, little mom and pop restaurants that serve really good food, and you go in and take a picture of the plate of food. And I started doing that with Google. And then Google started writing me going, look how many looks your picture got and how it's helped this restaurant. And I'm like, okay. It wasn't intentional. It was just, I was sitting there one day trying to figure out how to work my phone, and it took a picture of the meal, and I didn't even realize it uploaded until I came back from Google. And I was like, oh, okay. I have to make sure no other pictures get sent to Google.
We tend to take pictures of food wherever we are as well, and my partner has for a long time had a habit of posting food pictures into his Twitter account, and he has a whole bunch of Twitter followers who just follow him to look at the food pictures.
Right, just to look at the picture. It's amazing. So yeah, that's definitely one aspect of writing. Now you do have, I will try and share the screen again. Let me see if we can do that. There's another thing that we had I was going to talk about. We can get it to behave this time. Or not.
There we go. Yes, we can see it this time.
Oh, good. Okay.
Well, yeah, there we go. So,
Yeah.
yes, my website.
I can get that. There we go. So Dreamstone Publishing, now that's your company, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about how you put this together.
So this evolved, as I said, from back in the late 80s and 90s when we originally did a hardcover book, which was a bit of a torturous thing to do then. But we were mainly doing science fiction and fantasy related artwork, doing art prints and related products. And as I said, things went into hiatus for some years as the whole market changed. And then we brought things back and reinvented ourselves in the current era with digital and print on demand publishing. So I offer a range of different publishing packages for people, and we cover everything from writing, coaching and mentoring to help people get their book written, through courses to do that, through to editing, formatting, layout design, cover graphics, the whole end-to-end package to publishing. And it really comes down to the fact that in the traditional publishing era, you had to send your manuscript off to a publisher and hope that they thought they could sell enough of your book for it to be, and that they liked it enough for it to be worth them taking it on. And that meant that only tiny numbers of the books that were actually written ever got published, because they had to be sure before they put in all the cost of printing up front and distributing and paying their salespeople to go and sell it to bookshops, that they had to be confident they were going to sell 5,000 or 10,000 copies of your book in their region, because this was pre-globalization of book industry as well.
Right.
So not but printed. And what's happened as the digital book situation has come in and print on demand is coming in is that it's become more and more possible for anybody to get their book out there, because the question is not now, will some big publishing company decide that you're worth publishing, but it's, do you really want to be published? And considering now that, particularly in the digital form, and paperback as well, but digital definitely, your book has a global reach. You know, you get it out there on the big Amazon and Barnes and Noble and the big sellers, and anybody anywhere in the world pretty much can buy it. So where it used to be, say in my case from Australia, could we sell 5,000 copies of this book about this topic in Australia and New Zealand? Probably not. Could you sell 5,000 copies of that book in the world? Absolutely. No matter how narrow your niche is, no matter how narrow the thing that you're interested in, there will be hundreds of thousands of people in the world who also care about that thing. So it's a completely different marketplace. And it means that now it's just a case of, okay, you want to write a book. What outcome do you want for you? What outcome do you want for your reader? How do you want to do it? It's not up to me as a publisher in this sense to decide whether your book is good enough to be published. That's your call if you want to be published. It is up to me, if I'm publishing it for you, to help you make it the best book it can be and not let it go out with grammar mistakes and spelling and terrible layout or anything. But if you want to do it, that's your call. It becomes, what's your budget? Where do you want it to go to? How much marketing do you want to do? Let's get it out there, which is really good, because all sorts of books on all sorts of topics are now being published that might never have seen the light of day. But it's an interesting challenge, because there's still, like, I'm in that space between the traditional publishers and the person who does the complete self-publishing thing where they do absolutely everything themselves.
Mhm.
And again, my take on that is, sure, the tools are there. I mean, the tools that I use, the tools that even the big traditional publishing companies now use are exactly the same tools that you can get access to and use if you want to publish yourself completely as yourself. The problem with that is that the tool, like people say, just 3 steps, you just upload your file, upload your cover, and away you go. Yeah, if the file that you upload is not well edited, not well laid out, and not set up correctly, it's a crap in, crap out situation.
Right, right. It is.
So, and that formatting stuff, the stuff that means that what you upload is going to come out looking good, that's the thing where the artwork is in terms of learning, using the tools.
Absolutely.
And that's what I do for people. I mean, it's that thing where becoming a publishing and formatting expert shouldn't be what an author has to do. Being an expert on their subject matter, that's their thing. They shouldn't have to be a publishing expert to get it out there.
True.
That's my job.
That's very true. And yet again, like you said, you got the people, they just throw it up any old kind of way. And it's like, what happened to editing?
Yeah.
What happened there? Where's your grammar? What happened?
Yeah. A lot of the people I work with are business owners in the coaching, healing, helping type industries.
Mm-hmm.
And for them, largely what they're doing their book for is to capture and share their knowledge, but it's also to build their authority in their field and to grow their business.
Right.
And therefore, if your book is like your business card, if your book is the thing that is selling your authority in your business, it has to look professional, right? So just throwing it together and throwing it up there is not going to give them the results they want. It's a matter of working through that. And with the business, I work with the person from the start in terms of the business outcomes they want from their book, because that actually changes the structure of the book, how it's presented, how it's laid out, maybe even the order of the information, how it's presented in the book. And generally people haven't even thought about that, because the first thing I say to someone is, what is the outcome you want for you and your business from doing the book? What's the outcome you want for your reader from reading the book? What do you want them to do when they get to the end of the book? Do you want them just to know how to do this particular thing? Or do you want them to come and become your customer for something else? Do you want them to come and do one of your courses? What's the outcome you want for them and for you? And most people go, I don't know. I haven't thought of that.
Right.
So
I don't think of that.
Start from that kind of end and work through so that the book, apart from looking good, presenting well as a paperback, being easy for the reader to read, hopefully having no grammar and spelling errors in it, although you can go through things 1,000 times and somebody will always find one tiny thing you missed.
True.
But the book should be something that delivers on what they need. Because all too often, particularly over the last 10 years, as this type of publishing, particularly with the print-on-demand capability, came in, were a lot of companies, and there are still a lot of companies, unfortunately, whose approach is just, give me your finished manuscript and a whole lot of thousands of dollars and we'll make magic happen and you'll get 100 copies of your book. Mm-hmm. And magic doesn't happen because they don't do the marketing or anything. They don't help with the editing. And the person ends up with 100 copies of a book they can't sell sitting in their garage because it's full of grammar and spelling errors that they didn't spot, and because it's got a cover that doesn't help them sell the book. And it's just a nightmare for people so often.
Right.
I have had quite a few customers who've actually been down that path, and they've come to me because they need to do it differently and they want things to actually work.
Right. I definitely understand that. Okay, let's wait. Now this is your product creation launchpad. Now this is something new. When did you start this?
I just started this last year. I'm about to actually re-edit and reconstruct and expand the course.
Mm-hmm.
This is a course that is aimed not just at people who want to do books, but people who want to put together any kind of product for their business, whether that's a little report they want to use as a giveaway on their website when people sign up to attract attention, whether that's somebody wanting to create a course, somebody wanting to do little product videos for their business, or wanting to do books. It's about how people can start from the initial idea of achieving what do I want to build. So what am I going to build? What format do I want to put it in? Who do I want to sell it to? How will I connect with those people? What problem can I solve for the whole analysis process of what to build, and then the steps involved in gathering the knowledge they already have, because usually most people, particularly business people, already have 70 or 80% of the material they need to do a book or product in existence in their business. It'll be in blog posts, FAQs, procedure documents, emails they've written, their internal notes, their brochures. It's mostly there. But in general, people don't know how to take that from the material they have and the things they know about their customers and what the customers want and turn it into a product. So this is a step-by-step process to guide people through to be able to build whatever kind of product they want to build using the knowledge they already have.
Oh, okay. Great. And this is a course that you teach the people.
Yeah. Okay. It's an online course. It was originally structured as a 4-week course,
Mm-hmm.
but it ended up with like the 4 lessons in the structure as it is are very big.
Ah.
And I've kind of concluded over time that what I'm about to do with it is to break it down into 8 or 12 smaller lessons.
Mm-hmm.
To make it easier for people to get their head around, so people don't end up feeling overwhelming within a space.
Right.
Because there's a lot of information, and whilst the steps are quite easy,
Mm-hmm.
when you give people a lot of information at once, they often jam up. So I'm breaking it down to make it even simpler in this next iteration.
Okay. Let's see if I can get us back now. Okay, stop messing with me. I give up. Okay.
It's having one of those days, isn't it?
I know, it's just determined. I give up. Okay. Stop with the screen sharing.
There we are.
Okay. It's just the screen sharing function being obstinate. Okay. Well, we have a little bit of time left. Why don't you tell our audience how to get in touch with you if they have questions or...
Well, there's the website, which is dreamstonepublishing.com, and there's a contact form on there which will email me, or you can email info@dreamstonepublishing.com.
Mm-hmm.
You'll find us on Facebook, so the Facebook page is Dreamstone Publishing. Twitter and Instagram is Dreamstone Books, so lots of scope there. Keeping up with social media is always a challenge. There's so much time.
True. Very true. And there's way too much social media.
And you kind of drown in it. And because with the books, a lot of, like I have some other pages and things that we manage that are specifically related to particular book series or things that I do for authors that I've published for. So it's a perpetual challenge to find tools that allow me to manage posting to all the various things and keeping all the different channels of communication separate.
Yeah, I've given up. I'm like, okay, there's 3 things I talk to, maybe 4. That's it. Anybody else finds it, that's because somebody shared it.
So I do have to say, keep putting as many updates as I should on the website. I just struggle with the time. So it's just...
Yeah, that's it. There's not enough time in the day to keep up with all of this stuff.
And on a certain level, I'd rather be writing another book.
There you go. You want to do something fun. Social media is not always fun.
No,
I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to come and speak with our audience, and hopefully everybody got something out of this and really enjoyed talking with Kim. And we certainly wish that you come back and share some more with us when you finally get around to getting away from social media and writing a new book.
well, I'm actually very close to probably a month or so off from releasing another volume, like volume 2 of the writing tips book.
Oh, good.
So
Okay,
that
well,
will be
hopefully we'll
coming
get
out.
you back on, and you can tell us about what's going on and new in the volume 2.
Yep, lots of different things going on. Just again, it's time. It's always time. People go, I'm bored. I can't relate. I am never short of ideas. I'm only ever short of time.
That's it. That is so true.